Welcome back to the Cultured Friends YouTube channel. My name is Garrett, and today I'm bringing you a review for I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Now, I know the frame is a little bit weird, so is this movie so fucking weird. But the film is shot in a 4:3 aspect ratio, and I wanted to continue that with this review, keep in the spirit of that, and have something look a little different on here, which is something that we all need all the time. Now, at some point, I'm going to talk about spoilers in this movie. This is going to be a review, and then what I think this film is about. I'm going to keep it spoiler-free for a good section, and then I'm going to get into spoilers, because I don't know what this movie is supposed to be about, and what I think it is, I like, but I don't know. At the same time, I want you in the comments below to let me know what you thought about the film, what you think it's supposed to be about. Is it some super weird movie that's not supposed to make any sense? Let me know. Let's have a discussion about this movie. And with that, let's jump into this review. Like I've already said, this movie is very, very weird. It's very jarring. It's very fast-paced for a slow-paced movie. A lot happens, and at the same time, a lot doesn't happen. The acting, I think, is damn incredible. Everyone in this movie, and I mean everyone in this movie, is really, really good. Jesse Buckley, Jesse Plemons, Toni Collette, David Thewlis, Guy Boyd are all freaking amazing in this movie. Just such good acting, which makes everything else so fucking weird and so hard for me to understand. It's a very hard movie to review without going into spoilers. So I'm just going to talk about mechanics of a movie. You know, your script, camera work, directing. I already talked about acting. That was fucking incredible. I already talked about acting, which was just so good in this movie. First off, sound design. Sound design was really good in this movie. For 3 big chunks in the film, you have your 2 main characters, Jake and your young woman, driving a car through a snowstorm. So the entire time, the windshield wipers are going back and forth, and it's really fucking annoying at times, and I think at times they make it disappear, but then they'll bring it back in the sound design, and it's super jarring as well. The editing is jarring too. They just cut between stuff, and I understand why they do this in the film. Time does not matter at all in this world, and I'll get into why in the spoiler section. But it's just cuts after cuts after cuts. And people are gone, people are back, people are doing different things. It's weird, it's fun. Pacing-wise, this movie is long. It is a long 2 hours and 14 minutes. And only like 5 of those minutes are the credits. So it's a long-ass movie. Cinematography-wise, when they're in the car, you don't have a lot of shot structure that you can do. What they do is they do varying camera angles to let there be variety in what you're supposed to be seeing. Considering that the first 20 minutes of the movie, they're in the car talking, and you keep having to move the camera to make things interesting, or it's going to be very boring, very fast. And while this movie can drag on at sometimes, when it's entertaining, it's hella entertaining. When scenes are taking way too long to happen, it drags, but it's also a character movie, so these discussions that the characters are having are very important, and they start laying out the pieces of what I believe this movie is to be about. Like, I got so confused by this movie, I literally wrote, "I'm so confused," in my book. Also, I just started doing all caps at one point, because things were getting so crazy. Not like intense crazy, but like weird crazy. So, would I recommend this movie? I would have to say maybe. If you want an in-depth character study that has some psychological horror in it, I would recommend so. It is very slow. If you do not want to sit around for 2 hours and 15 minutes and have it be super slow and boring and not something super intense and scary, this is not your movie. Without my spoiler talk, what I think about this movie, the grade doesn't make super much sense, but I'm gonna give this movie maybe a 7 out of 10. It's not super amazing, and it's not super bad either. It is a little bit boring at some time, but I think the amount of thought that the film requires after viewing it is what really raises the bar for this film and makes my level of enjoyment better. This movie is something I could see many different opinions people having, and there'll be lots of talking and communication about it, and that, for me, is super fun to be able to talk to someone about film. It's so much fun to do, and I hope to be able to do it with the people that watch this video. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into spoilers. This is a big spoiler warning. Do not watch the rest of this video if you haven't seen this movie. I know that sucks for me to say because watch time and everything, but I really don't want you to watch this video if you haven't seen the movie. If you don't care about the movie, continue on and learn what I think this movie is about, and watch it through the lens that I create with my opinion of the film and what the themes and what it's supposed to be about. This movie is not about the young women. If you think she's the main character, the camera presents that to her, but I think this movie is really about Jake, played by Jesse Plemons. I think this is about every single controlling and abusive relationship he's ever had and caused. And I think the character that Jesse Buckley plays is an amalgamation of all the women that he's abused, assaulted, or controlled in a relationship. Now, where I'm drawing this from is how jarring the character of the young woman is written. She has so many jobs that she has, and I know you can say that she's a multifaceted woman, but some of these things take too much time for her to be able to do other stuff. At first, she talks about learning about rabies in university and everything, and like what stuff does in the brain. Then she's a poet. Then she's a painter. Then she's a physicist. Then she's learning about de-aging and time, and if you can actually do that to the body. She also knows tons about cinema, but at the same time, earlier in the film, she talks about hating cinema and how it's just full of lies. So that's at least 6 things that her character is interested in, and I think that's at least 6 different women. There could be more things that I'm currently forgetting, and these women aren't just from his past. I think some of these women could be in Jake's future when he's a janitor at the high school. The janitor character was being really creepy watching the musical theater people, and during the film, Jake professes he has an extreme love for musical theater. He goes on this really funny listing of all these musicals. It was really good. So that's another thing. I think the janitor is Jake. Just Jake in his future. And he goes like crazy and everything. For the controlling relationship side, this is very evident when we have the dinner scene with mother-father. The young woman constantly has to look at Jake and get his approval and like nodding his head and stuff, for her to be able to talk about, say, what she does as a job. For her to tell the story about them meeting is another example of him being controlling. He had to approve her saying it. And later in the movie, the story is changed where she's a waitress. And we see this film that the janitor is watching. And it's said it's directed by Robert Zemeckis, which I thought was very funny. I would love to know if Robert Zemeckis actually directed those scenes for the fake movie. And later in the movie, for one really brief, quick shot, Colby Minifie, who is the actress that plays Yvonne, replaces the young woman in the car. And that just got my mind turning because that adds another job and everything that this character of the young woman adds to a list. And maybe that it's Jake projecting a woman that he wants there to be. Like, that's like the perfect woman he wants. And he's projecting the fact that he likes this woman from a movie into that. But again, he was watching that as a janitor in the future, when we're in the present in the car. Like I said, time doesn't matter. Everything is clashing at the same time, which we see inside the house with mother and father when they're playing different roles of themselves in different times, you know, past, present, and their future as they get older and sicker and losing their minds and whatnot. What the ending of the film means, I don't really know. To be honest, I think that the dance sequence is maybe signifying that Jake at some point asks the current young woman that she's supposed to be as her to marry him, and maybe he dies as a result of this in their future. I don't know what the Nobel Prize is supposed to mean. I don't know what him singing is supposed to mean. I don't know what the dancing is supposed to mean. Why the janitor gets naked, I think he's just supposed to be crazy. And why he's seeing a cartoon pig that is losing its guts. Because early in the film, Jake tells us that there were pigs that were alive, but were literally rotting from the inside out. You could see maggots and everything. Which really signifies to me, hey, the janitor is Jake. Boom, I think that was your big answer for me in the film, that the janitor was Jake. And people are saying there's a post-credit scene. That's just literally your credits going away, and we're focusing back on the car, which is now covered in snow, and there's like gears and machinery sounds going on. It doesn't tell you anything about this movie other than, hey, maybe both Jake and the young woman died inside the school or froze to death inside the car. I don't know. I really wanted to watch videos explaining the ending after I made my review, because I really like what I think currently, and I don't want other people's opinions affecting that. It could just be as baseless as some woman doesn't know how to break up with someone, but later towards the end of the film, when the young woman even talks about being very uncomfortable in her first meeting with Jake at the bar, that also signifies to me how abusive and yucky of a relationship this is. And during the dinner scene, Jake is super unhappy with how things are going. He's getting angry, he's getting physical, slamming the table. Later in the movie, he slams the steering wheel in the car. There's just a lot of information given to us. Jake also thinks that Baby It's Cold Outside is not a rape song. But then they kiss immediately after ending that discussion. And I'm like, what the fuck? Is yucky. But the dancing scene, I couldn't get out of my mind the sounds that the shoes are making. I wish they weren't wearing the character shoes that they were wearing, like maybe ballet slippers, because the constant hitting of the ground of the boots really got to me, and I thought it was just incredibly funny. I like that sound. For some reason, I really like shoes hitting the ground. I think Star Wars A New Hope is my favorite example of this. Just all the stormtroopers walking, it just works really well for me, like that sound and everything. And there's a lot of voiceover from the young woman, and I think that the voiceover is from the woman that we are seeing at the moment. And because of how messed up time and reality is, her mind is becoming mush, and she's forgetting things, and other women's personalities are taking over. In the car when they're talking about cinema, she turns into a character of like an old Hollywood person reviewing movies. She pulls out a cigarette out of nowhere, and we haven't been told that she likes to smoke at all earlier in the film, so it's just really jarring. Even with the voiceover, it will be randomly interrupted and covered with actual dialogue that characters are saying. It's very hard to hear, it's very hard to understand at some points, and complete thoughts aren't something that this film gives to us at all. So that is me talking about this movie in a spoiler sense. Once again, let me know in the comments down below what you thought about I'm Thinking of Ending Things. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye! I really do think this film is also meant to kind of waste your time, because in the literal sense, this movie says that time doesn't matter, to the point that the time spent on the movie doesn't matter in you watching it. I don't know, that's just some weird thought I have about it.